You are a Luftwaffe ace, high over the fields of Europe, in your sleek Messerschmitt. On the horizon, a new American fighter. It's huge, clumsy looking. Your squadron leader called it a milchflash, a milk bottle. You smirk. This will be easy prey. You bank to attack, expecting a slow, lumbering target, but then it dives. It doesn't just dive, it plummets with an impossible speed. As you try to line up your shot, its wings erupt in a storm of fire from 8 heavy machine guns. This is no milk bottle. This is a flying fortress with the soul of a killer. The shockwave of that first encounter in early 1943 rippled through the Luftwaffe. The Republic P-47 Thunderbolt was a contradiction in the sky. To pilots accustomed to the sleek, predatory lines of the Messerschmitt Bf 109 or the agile Focke-Wulf 190, the Thunderbolt was an offense to aeronautic design. It was 7 tons of flying metal built around a colossal 18-cylinder radial engine that gave it a blunt, brutish profile. It wasn't a scalpel, it was a sledgehammer. American pilots, initially, were not much more impressed. They christened it the Jug, a name born not of affection, but of its resemblance to a common household jug. It was a term of grudging acknowledgement for a machine that felt less like a fighter and more like a truck with the wings. It wallowed in turns. It climbed sluggishly compared to its nimble adversaries. And on the ground, it was an awkward, lumbering beast. The joke in the Allied airfields was that its pilot could run around inside the fuselage to evade enemy fire. But the Germans weren't laughing for long, and the American pilots were about to discover the terrifying genius hidden within the Jug's design. The secret was not in its agility, but in its heart. Beating at its core was the Pratt Whitney R-2800 Double Wasp, a 2,000 horsepower marvel of engineering. This engine, with its complex supercharger system, gave the Thunderbolt one critical advantage that would change the air war over Europe: phenomenal performance at high altitude. While German fighters often saw their power bleed away in the thin, cold air above 25,000 feet, the Thunderbolt came alive. This was the R-2800, could absorb an incredible amount of punishment and keep pulling the aircraft through the sky, a trait that would bring countless American pilots home. This inherent toughness, combined with its sheer mass, gave the Thunderbolt its most lethal tactical weapon: the dive. When a P-47 pilot nosed over into a dive, gravity became his greatest ally. The 7-ton airframe accelerated with terrifying velocity, quickly exceeding 500 miles per hour. A German pilot in an FW-190 might be able to outclimb or outturn a Jug, but he could never, ever outdive it. To be caught above a Thunderbolt was a death sentence. The American pilots quickly learned to discard the traditional turning dogfight. Their new Bible was written in 2 words: boom and zoom. They would use their high-altitude advantage to spot a target, dive on it with impossible speed, and then unleash the second part of the Thunderbolt's deadly equation. If the engine was its heart, its fists were forged from 8 Browning M2.50 caliber machine guns, 4 nestled in each wing. This was not the mixed armament of cannons and machine guns common on European fighters. This was a pure, overwhelming concentration of firepower. In a single, 1-second burst, a Thunderbolt could hurl a dense cloud of heavy caliber rounds at its target, creating a veritable wall of lead. Head-on attacks against Luftwaffe fighters became a favored tactic of Thunderbolt aces like Major Francis Gabby Gabreski. German pilot had to fly through a storm of steel that could shred control surfaces shatter canopies, and detonate engines. The psychological impact was immense. The clumsy milk bottle had transformed into a high-speed battering ram, a flying shotgun that could erase an enemy aircraft from the sky in a blinding flash. Pilots learned to trust the plane not for its grace, but for its raw, uncompromising power. They embraced its identity as a juggernaut, a force that didn't need to dance with its opponent when it could simply smash right through it. The air war over Europe was about to change, and this unloved, underestimated brute was leading the charge. But the Thunderbolt's evolution was far from over. As the strategic calculus of the war shifted in 1944, with Allied armies preparing to storm the beaches of Normandy, the P-47's mission profile underwent a radical transformation. Its high-altitude escort duties, while vital, had revealed the aircraft's true nature. It was not just a fighter, it was a survivor. Its ability to absorb incredible amounts of ground fire and still bring its pilot home made it the perfect candidate for the most dangerous job in the sky: ground attack. The guard dog of the bomber streams was about to be unleashed as a wolf on the German war machine below. Stripped of its long-range drop tanks and armed for a new kind of war, the Jug became a fighter-bomber, a true multi-role terror. Beneath its sturdy wings, it could carry up to 2,500 pounds of ordnance, a bomb load comparable to the light bombers of the war's early years. 500-pound bombs that could shatter bridges, and later, high-velocity aircraft rockets that could tear apart a Panzer tank. But even with this new arsenal, its deadliest weapon remained its original set of 8.50 caliber machine guns. Against soft targets, supply trucks, locomotives, troop columns, a strafing run from a P-47 was annihilation. It was a horizontal buzzsaw that could chew through steel and flesh with equal ferocity, crippling the Wehrmacht's ability to move, resupply, and reinforce its front lines. On the ground for the German soldier, the Thunderbolt became a source of pure dread. The deep, throaty roar of its R-2800 engine was an unmistakable sound, a harbinger of imminent, violent destruction. They gave it a new name, one born not of mockery but of fear: Der Grosse Teufel, the Big Devil. Entire German divisions learned to march only at night, to camouflage their vehicles with painstaking care, and to scan the skies with a constant, gnawing anxiety. A P-47 attack came without warning. A glint of sun on a canopy, a rapidly growing speck on the horizon, and then a screaming dive followed by a hurricane of fire and explosions. The psychological toll was devastating, a constant pressure that frayed nerves and shattered morale. The official German reports of late 1944 spoke in stark terms, acknowledging the P-47 as a primary threat to their logistical infrastructure. The Luftwaffe, already outnumbered and fighting for its life, was now forced to change its tactics yet again. Engaging the Thunderbolts was a losing proposition. They were too tough, too heavily armed, and often flew in overwhelming numbers. The only viable strategy was avoidance. The joke was well and truly over. By the end of the war, the story of the flying milk bottle had become a legend. The P-47 Thunderbolt was credited with destroying over 7,000 enemy aircraft, more than half of them in air-to-air combat. But its true legacy was written on the scorched earth of Europe. Tens of thousands of tanks, trucks, trains, and artillery pieces were wiped from the battlefield by the Jug. It was the aircraft that proved that sometimes the most elegant solution is brute force. It began its life as an object of ridicule, an oversized, ungraceful anomaly in a sky full of thoroughbreds. It ended the war as one of history's greatest combat aircraft, a testament to an American design philosophy that prized ruggedness, power, and overwhelming firepower above all else.